I spent a decade of my legal career as a prosecutor for the city of Philadelphia. I've always wanted to advocate on behalf of women, children, and those who've been marginalized in the face of injustice. One of the cases that continues to haunt me is from 2011. A mummers club was raided in South Philadelphia after an investigation revealed that a monthly sex party was happening at the club. The night of the raid, 10 women were arrested for the crime of prostitution. Over 50 men who paid to attend the sex party, they weren't arrested. And while they went home to their wives and their families, one by one, those 10 women, they were paraded in front of the media cameras, and the next day, their arrest photographs were all over the local news. Those 10 women and hundreds of thousands of women and girls in this country are prostituted. And society views this choice to sell sex, like they want to do it. And, it's even fashionable right now that people who sell sex are considered to be empowered. And the reality is that, we've convinced ourselves that this is work that they choose because it's the best option they have, or because it's the best of a couple of different bad options, but, hey, it's their choice. Let's talk about choice for a minute. Not the choices that we make every day, like whether to have sweet potato or regular fries with our burger, and not even the choices that might have some impact on our lives, like which neighborhood to live in. Have you ever made a choice based on fear, desperation, or hopelessness? The choice that those 10 women made to be sold for sex, it's often not made freely. And that choice can lead to pain, lasting trauma, and even death. And the choice to be prostituted is most often a choice between a couple of not great options. Like, be prostituted or starve. Be prostituted or watch your kids starve. Be prostituted or live on the streets. And research tells us that those in the sex trade, even for just a few months, suffer from deep and long-lasting trauma. And those 10 women at the sex party, their lives in the sex trade most likely consisted of trauma, heaped upon trauma. And society considers that choice and the consequences that stem from that choice to be their sole burden. Why does the commercial sex trade and commercial sexual exploitation exist in this country? Because the demand for commercial sex exists. If we target the buyers, the supply will stop. No buyers, no business. Remember the patrons inside the sex party? Over 50 men. They were free to leave. They weren't named. They never saw the media cameras, and they weren't arrested, despite the fact that buying sex is a crime. You all know that buying sex is a crime, right? Let's examine their choice to pay for sex. Because paying for sex is truly a free choice. And the choice that they made, and buyers make every time they pay for sex, most likely didn't have lasting negative consequences on their lives. It didn't violate their bodies. It didn't destroy their mental health. But the impact that it has on prostituted persons, it's indescribable. Law enforcement has spent decades policing the sex industry by targeting those who are traumatized and hurt, the victims. Those 10 women who were arrested the night in the Mummers Club, that's the norm. Law enforcement focuses on arresting those who've been victimized and traumatized and treats them like criminals, while the true offenders, the ones who inflict the harm and deepen the trauma, the traffickers, the sex buyers, they're targeted to an extraordinarily lesser extent. These law enforcement tactics have been used over and over with the goal of ending the illegal sex trade. And guess what? It hasn't worked, and it won't work. After witnessing all of these injustices firsthand as a prosecutor, I quit my job. And 4 years ago, I co-founded the Institute to Address Commercial Sexual Exploitation at Villanova Law School, the CSE Institute. We train lawyers to practice trauma-informed lawyering skills. We teach law enforcement how to investigate and prosecute these cases. We host a survivor symposium to give survivors a platform from which to speak and to have their voices heard. We focus our work primarily in Pennsylvania, but I really would like our efforts to be felt nationally. But the problem in Pennsylvania is right in front of us. So let's start here. In 2017 alone, there were 1,443 arrests, just arrests, the tip of the iceberg, for prostitution. There were 447 arrests for buying sex. Consider that if those 1,443 people had at least 5 sex buyers a day on one day, that means that a little more than 7,200 people got away with committing a crime. And those 7,200 people would contribute to the pain and the trauma of 1,443 people. They would choose to do so, and they would be culpable. Let's consider some national data on the sex industry. There's data collected by the National John Suppression Initiative. It's a law enforcement operation that aims to target sex buyers in an effort to end the demand for prostitution. And their data has revealed something just fascinating. Men who buy sex are more often white, educated, employed, married, and middle-aged. We all know someone who fits that description. Meanwhile, Their data also tells us that those who are exploited for sex are frequently teenagers, uneducated, homeless, and experienced violence against them as children. This makes me really uncomfortable. This should make all of us uncomfortable. Those with more power and privilege are buying the bodies of those with far less power. Think about where the choice lies there. And it's not with the prostituted person. So breaking it down, here's what's going on. Men who buy sex, who choose to buy sex, are inflicting pain and deepening pre-existing trauma on those who would not and do not freely choose to have that harm inflicted on them. There is a movement, both here and internationally, to legalize the entire sex industry. Their arguments aren't based in reality, but they go like this. If prostitution were legal, it would be safer to sell sex. They could make a living. The cops would be more likely to respond to their concerns, such as rape. These arguments don't offer protection. Being able to call the police after being beaten, it won't stop them from being beaten in the first place. The sex trade has been legalized around the world in Germany, the Netherlands, and parts of Australia. And we know that in countries where it's legal, the violence against prostituted people doesn't decline. Their PTSD doesn't decline, and sex trafficking actually increases. We need to flip this script. We need to redefine the way that we look at the commercial sex industry and the way that we look at choice and culpability. Because when we do, it becomes abundantly clear that we're not faced with a dichotomy of one person having choice and another person having culpability. Choice and culpability exist in the same person, the sex buyer. We should strive to follow the Nordic model or the equality model, the law that was first passed in Sweden. It does exactly this. It shifts the paradigm and focuses the stigma and the criminalization on those who buy sex. And it recognizes that those who are sold for sex, the ones experiencing the pain and the trauma, that they deserve our help and services. Since 1999, when the law went into effect in Sweden, we know that the results have been tremendous. The number of prostituted persons went from 3,000 to 300. Our system is broken, but we can fix it. We have a proven model to follow. So here's the reality. This uncomfortable feeling that we all have, it's a good thing because we can do something about it. Become aware. Notice the problem. Pay attention to the words that you use. Gender-based violence starts early, and prostitution is gender-based violence. Do your friends buy sex? Does your boss? When your buddy travels on business and you know that he buys sex and you don't say anything, You're providing a silent endorsement. What are we teaching our kids? What behavior are we modeling? Speak up. Be the voice that can help the voiceless, the ones with little choice and whose humanity is being discounted, the ones we are hurting by the choices that we're making. It's far easier to look away than to recognize that people with little power are being sold for sex. We just need to suggest that we stop telling ourselves that this isn't a problem, it doesn't affect us, or even worse, that it's not a problem at all because there aren't any victims. Reject the lies. Commercial sexual exploitation, it's too prevalent, it's too traumatizing, and it's too tragic to look away. Choice is a powerful thing. Choice can open a door to freedom. Let's choose to start talking about who buys sex and why they can choose to do so. Let's choose to recognize that those who are being sold for sex need our help. Let's choose to effectuate change. Thank you.